Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope you are all doing well. Did the music work today? Did I come in clear, not pixelated? Hi, Michelle. Hi, Tanya. How you doing? I am not making French knots today. Aren't you surprised? Hope everybody can hear me okay, too. I have got, I realized last night when I was laying out things for the big wildscape, which I did post some new pictures on Instagram. I haven't gotten them on Facebook or YouTube yet, but as I was kind of laying things out and I realized I couldn't really use a couple things that I thought I was going to use. Hey, Carol. And I needed more of something else. So it's the something else that I'm going to be working on. Oh, just had a root canal. That stinks. Been there, done that more times than I want to remember. Let's flip these cameras around. Here we go. Coming through just fine. Okay, good. So, yeah, I need to make more of these little pom-pommy guys. I have the pom-pom makers that you can make in all the different sizes, but they're a little too perfect for me. Sometimes I use them for certain effect, but when I'm going to mass everything, I really like to do them freehand. And I'm going to work in the dark greens today because I don't have, these are just the only two I have. But I wanted to show you these because this is something I do a lot. Okay, this is, shoot, I didn't bring the one with the label on, I don't think. Oh, wait a minute, here we go. I can show you what this is because if anybody ever sees this in green, I want it. All right, this is FFF Mariah. I guess it's Filade. And this is great. I originally grabbed one probably on Etsy years ago because it had the fuzzy stuff. And I was looking for the fuzzy stuff, any of the fuzzy stuff that I could do because I wasn't finding those discontinued yarns. And so what I learned is that it's finicky, but you can separate. So then you have two different things. And this is actually a paper yarn. And this is more of a fuzzy yarn. So when I make, I can go ahead and make them with that yarn just like it is, but it doesn't do as much for me. They're not as interesting as when I separate it and I make it with just this papery one, or I make it with just the fuzzies. Hey, Sue. So, take a look. Sometimes if you're picking up yarns, you can, if you haven't already done this, you can separate them and get a new variety. So really, I could make it the way it is, and then I could make these two other versions, and they all look just a little bit different. There's that subtle difference in them. And the only reason I'm not going to be messing with those today is because you can't just separate it cleanly and get, a nice long thing. So you get them in chunks. So when I'll show you. So sometimes, oh, this is a long one. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a long one. Ooh. And that's about as big as you get. You just don't get any more than that because it's just too hard. So I'm always looking for this kind of stuff. And, there was a gal on eBay that had this in green, and she was actually trying to sell like 50 skeins of it and all these other colors that I don't use. And I talked her into letting me have it, just the green ones. So I have like 10 skeins of this, and that's all. I can't find it anywhere else. Yeah, it does kind of look like an air fern, doesn't it? And the last piece I sold had a lot of this in it, and the gal was just absolutely fascinated. Hey, Julia, how you doing? Hey, Big Mama Sandy, she is sitting up in bed, maybe watching from down feathers, not chatting, but sending hugs to all in chat. Sandy's husband loves her so much that he gave her the flu. And that's just, true love, right? So this stuff is kind of neat. This was an ice yarn. And so it's like the ice chenille. And I just like the way it sort of flops. Sue says, I hope you feel better soon, Sandy. Carol says hi. It just sort of flops around. And the thing about this kind of stuff is when you mass it, then you get a completely different effect. And of course you could take the individual things. I've made French knots with it and bullions with it, but I think they're more effective like this. And I need this color. I needed a warm green. So I did, uh-oh, I messed myself up there. Oh, well, I tried cutting a bunch of stuff ahead of time. Oh, maybe I made it work. We'll see. All right, let's put this down below. It'll be a little bit easier. And hey, Andrea. Yeah, sometimes Big Daddy really bugs me. So, and it's nice doing it on the wool thing because then my threads, I cut really long threads for tying in the center because then I can just use that to attach them where I want them. And I just use my fingers. You can use a piece of cardboard if you want, but honestly, I like the randomness that comes from just using my fingers. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I did like 21 on these. Let's see. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That seems about what I did. We'll see. I have to do them one at a time because I can't really lay them. If I lay them down, then I knock them and then so I got to tie them right away. So let me know what's going on in your corner of the world. I am really excited now that I've started to add the details to this huge wildscape. I was really doubting for a while what I was doing, and I'll probably doubt right up to the end just because that's my nature. But I am learning so much about how to create a larger piece in a way that works for me, because it doesn't matter what anybody else tells you. Boy, I've really got my fingers all tied up in knots here already. Hey, Terry. You have got to find a way that works for you. And so I figured a couple things out. I also found that Lowry Workstands, who makes my beautiful floor stand that I love so much, is now custom making some really, really large ones that you're only limited by the size of the wood frame that you want to stretch in the middle. So it can handle the weight and everything. So I am saving up because I'm thinking I'm going to get one of those. Oh, Gracie doesn't want me to watch. She wants me to play with her. Of course. Tally plum tuckered herself out by digging this morning. She had such a good time. And then she realized, I guess, that she forgot to run because normally she zooms around the yard a little bit before she comes in. So she did the zoomies in the house and she was like bumper cars off the furniture. I know this isn't the most exciting thing to watch, but it is different from French knots, right? So I get bonus points for that, huh? Huh? Maybe? Okay. And of course, I can't wait to cut them, but no worries, Terry. Huya, we don't have anybody that can translate today, and that you're just going to have to hang out with us. I just, I like the unevenness of this. Let's see if my 21 was right. And I like doing them oversized. So these, I might need to do them even longer. And of course, it's a chenille, so you're going to have shedding everywhere. And I don't worry about cutting anything off until I'm ready to mount it. Yeah, I think that looks about right. Does that about match? Yep. Okay, so let me know what's going on. Who's doing what? I do wonder how much this thing of mine is going to weigh when I'm all done. Let's see. Yeah, when I'm all done, I'll get the lint roller. Doesn't make sense to mess with it yet. 1, 2. This is kind of tricky sometimes. Terry is sitting in her car because she didn't want to go down to the cold cellar. I don't blame you. And of course, if you really wanted these to be consistently the same size, you could use a piece of cardboard and be very careful counting everything. But you know me, I want it to look a little bit more natural. Good morning, Philippa. You slept in. Well, that's good. Always feels nice. Yeah, we've been sleeping in too. I think we didn't get up till like 7:45. Tally is still on the old time before the time change, and it's been very nice. But that does tell me that when we fall back, we're going to have to work on getting up earlier. Ooh, Terry is going to be posting a video on Fussy Cut Friday. Yes, I'm so glad you're working with that. Looking forward to seeing it. I had gotten, I don't know, over the years, some other very thin chenille. I mean, it was just, it was like this thin of a chenille yarn probably in something that came from Goodwill. And I wish I could find more of it, because if you make these little kind of pom-poms out of it, it's just, I don't know, it just hangs really neat and viney like. And so I've used up what I had. I'd like to get some more. Michelle says, I've been looking at all the rag dolls on Pinterest, and I'm thinking of making a stuffed doll. Ooh, that sounds like fun. You could do all sorts of things with it. So many ways to make dolls, said Terry. Yeah, I used to think I wanted to make dolls. I thought that looked like a lot of fun. And, now just realizing there's only so many things I can make. I do have to concentrate while I count. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So who else has made dolls that's out there in the audience? Sue, Carol. Seems like the kind of thing maybe one of you might have done in the past. I have a couple dolls I bought years ago. I don't even remember where, because I just love the idea of making when they were going to be my models. But you can only make so many things. Tell you what, putting the components together on this Wildscape, I realized I have way too many of something that I'm not going to use on this one, and I don't have nearly enough of something else that, again, is a yarn that is no longer around. A friend gave me a bunch of tapestry yarn that was just the right texture and color, so now I'm trying to match it with some Appleton's wool. Well, I'm not seeing this very well. Carol said, yes, I've done cloth and clay dolls. Terry said, for a while, I thought my daughter, I could make dolls or doll clothes, but her interest was too short-lived. Oh, yeah, I'll be adding lots of rocks. I added a few to the first piece. I think I posted it on Facebook and probably on a community post, but there's a lot more to be added. I realized, though, I wanted to stop. I didn't want to do too many of the rocks until I got all the pieces put together so that it was, so I could kind of balance, because otherwise I was going to end up with all the rocks in one place, and that wasn't going to be a good idea. If anybody is in Kentucky that's watching and is near that town that I have trouble pronouncing, Tanya, you can laugh at me, Paducah, something close to that. I haven't practiced it for a while. That exhibition, Fantastic Fibers, opened yesterday. Hey, Kat. She said, I was just making pom-poms earlier today. Were you making imperfect ones or ones with the pom-pom maker that come out a little bit closer to round? Sue says, yes, I've made dolls in the past, mostly little stuffed cloth. You used a fork. Ooh, you making tiny ones? I just love these. I just really, plus these guys feel good. You know me, it's all about the texture. How does this feel when you pet it? And it all feels differently. This is going to feel differently than this. And then, of course, the fuzzies are going to feel even more differently. Terry said we had to do a presentation. Oh, when you made your doll. I remember that. Tiny ones for your embroidered terrariums. Yay. Are you in our Facebook group, Kat, so you can share those so people can be inspired and see your beautiful work? I can't remember. You know, the Facebook group is kind of, it does its own thing. And that's fine because I really don't have the time to do too much. Hey, Barbara, how are you doing today? But if I did not put the link below today, but if you're interested in the Facebook group, DM me and I will be happy to send you the link. What's up in your corner of the world today? Yeah, this becomes a little tricky, not using the fork or a piece of cardboard if I want to get them longer. So we're gonna, if I leave a tail, sometimes this works. There's always something fiddly, right? Always something fiddly. I don't have huge hands, so there we go. What am I at? 1, 2, 3, 4. Kat says, not yet. Oh, maybe Barbara's here. Maybe you could grab the Facebook group link if you have a chance, Barbara. Kat says, I love all your fantastic fibers. Thank you. That's really sweet. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Thank you, Barbara. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Boy, if you're doing them on a fork, those are teeny tiny. Did you post any pictures yet on Instagram? Do I need to go check things out? Terry said, I received a doll from my grandmother for my first Christmas. I made a pattern from that and made a new version. Oh, that sounds great. I do remember you. I don't know if you posted on Facebook or if you just sent it to me in Messenger, but it was really, really great to see. Barbara says, takes me a while. No, you did great. I just saw a post from a friend whose mom died. I'll be back in a minute. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Tally's going to be even more tired. Hubby's just taken her out on a walk. Kat said, thanks, Barbara. Sorry to hear about your friend. Well, I will be looking for those, Kat, because, you know, I love that we can inspire one another with all the stuff we do. So that's what it's all about, right? Is, you know, get our art out into the world. And I figure I have one job. My job is to put kindness and joy and love out into the world. That's my job. And then make my art because that makes me happy, which then I can reflect that joy that's in my art out to the rest of the world. And hopefully it has like that ripple effect. That's what we want. Hey, Renee. She said, I saw your post with the river layout. How wonderful. Thank you. It's starting to come together. I'm getting really excited. Michelle said, Terry, I love paper dolls too. That's right. Because Terry said we talked about it in the group before. I think Corinne brought it up. Yes. Corinne was making these little tiny dolls. I think she's very inspired by Sally Maver, who I can't remember the name. She's got a name for the types of dolls and work that she does. Yeah, I'm very excited about this big piece coming together, starting to take a look at some names. Nothing's quite told me what it is yet, but it will be something kind of earthy. I took all my, if you've seen my post where I had all my components and my hoops in progress up on my board in the studio, I took them all down because I had to, separate them so that I could use them. And it looks so empty now. Terry said jointed paper dolls are really fun. Yes. Sue said, my son just mounted a quilt top of mine on the long arm. I hadn't seen it in a while. Made me smile just looking at it again. Isn't that a neat feeling? It's like, ooh, hello, old friend. I remember making jointed paper dolls. Oh, and then, okay, paper dolls making me think of Flat Stanley. Whose kids, or maybe you guys are young enough that you did them. My kids had Flat Stanley in school. That was a lot of fun. It says, Terry, do you still make dolls? I've been doing paper mache dolls, multimedia really, as I sew clothes for some. Ooh, that's cool. There's a gal on Instagram. I can't remember her name, but maybe somebody knows her. She's she works with clay, and she makes the most amazing, realistic women of a certain age usually. Oh, I just love this. I love this yarn. I only have one skein of it, and I need to see if I can find some. It should be pretty easy to find some more. This is ice yarn, so usually ice yarn is pretty available. And we are, what, 9 days until baseball season starts. I cannot wait. That means hockey season's going to be over. We just got into hockey this year. Really enjoying watching our Sharks because they're just, they're rebuilding. So we get to see all the young guys coming up and learning their stuff. And I think our Giants this year, San Francisco Giants, are going to do better. Got a good feeling in the clubhouse now. Terry said, cool, I made a jointed paper doll to go with a journal a few years ago, but not recently. Oh, that's a good idea because they're nice and flat. There's, Miss Sandy who's resting. You need to add some paper dolls to your journals because I'm very good at finding work for somebody else. I was wondering if I would get bored working on this piece, because I've been working on the same one for so long, but there's been so much to learn about the construction of it. Hey, bye, Carol. Take care. Good to see you. But I'm not getting bored at all. I'm really enjoying learning all the things that go into this. Barbara said, okay, I'm back. Hello again, everyone. We're never ready for our parents' deaths. If you still have your parents, ask them today what you want to know about them or their history. That's a really good point. And no, we're never ready. Whoops, I didn't get both threads through. Let's try that one again. Barbara said, Sue, it will be lovely to see it done. Yeah, once you get that quilting on that old friend. Terry said, although I did make a fairy jar journals and use paper doll fairies in them. Oh, cute. I think poor Tally's going to crash the rest of the afternoon, I think. She came back from her walk and just immediately went to her little den behind the chair. It says, Susan, what did you learn today about the construction? I realize one of the things that I like, and I don't have any of the French knots in here, but you guys see me do, let's see if I can give you the feel. You see me do all the French knots, on something here. And something I did know is that, when you have something that's that tight, even though you're doing it on a hoop, if you're doing it on a thin fabric like this linen, it's going to pucker around the edges. It's not going to lay flat. And I realized that that was something that I really liked because then I could put some fiber fill underneath it and I could shape it. But what I hadn't thought about is how I really needed to have that part done before I started to put the rest of it together. I also want to, on the next projects, I will be working on green. I will use green felt. I can have something else, but I also need to have green felt as my background, this heavy felt that I've got, because it just makes putting it together. I don't have to hide if I had, like I was stitching on any kind of scraps. And then you have to worry about hiding things. I also had done, let's see, this will give me an idea. I had thought I was saving myself time by stitching a lot of these components down on wool, but really they're more useful to me if I keep them individually and stitch them, into the piece as I need them. So it's been, learning a lot of stuff. Barbara said I took a class once on a long arm quilting machine. Of course, in 1 or 2 sessions, I didn't get the hang of it. Plus, I realized how hard it would be for me to stand that length of time. Yeah, that would be hard. Terry said, Tally is picking up so many cute behaviors. She really is. She's a sweetheart. Sue said, I frustrate my son with all the colors and patterns in the quilt tops. Makes choosing thread color for quilting a challenge. Terry, I just did buy, it was on Amazon because it was more expensive than buying it from the Fabrics website. And they had a 15% off coupon. And they were selling it in 1 yard prepackaged stuff already wrapped up in plastic. And I bought 5 more because they're perfect for the final backing. And then I have enough of the green scraps already that I can use on top, at least for the next few big ones. Colors are something else I learned about. Let's see. Do I have any of my other browns here? This is a good example. I was just saying, I loved this yarn and I love this yarn, and they look okay together, but really this is much more of a cold color and this is much more of a warm brown. And some of the ones that are in the studio are even a lighter, warmer brown. And the majority of my greens I would put in the warm family. And I really hadn't thought about that when I was making all the components. So it's something, whoops, I'm stepping on the yarn. Wasn't thinking about that when I was making all the components. So it's something, I'll do a tiny bit more planning the next time, I think. I also realized it's going to be easier than I thought to reduce my, the numbers of wools that I buy as I use things up. I'm not going to be buying everything I see that's in a wool fingering weight that I like, because I have like 5 dyers that I really like. And then that way everything goes together. Yeah, aren't parents supposed to challenge their children? There you go, Sue. You're doing good parenting duties, even though your son's all grown up. You're challenging him. Terry said you find the most yummy textures. That's what attracts me. That's my thing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have a bunch of linen that I really enjoy stitching on, but it's like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You don't see the linen because of what I'm doing. So I might just have to save it until I'm ready to do just some surface embroidery again, or sell it. I don't know. It's very frustrating, though, that I found some textures that I just love and the yarns are all discontinued. True, and she said, won't it make it more like nature, having warm and cool colors interspersed? Yes, and I will still use some of the cooler colors in there, especially closer to the water. I think that's going to feel more appropriate. But where I needed a big chunk of brown for the hills or the dirt, whatever, however you want to interpret it, I was frustrated that I didn't have any more in that shade. Although I did find an unexpected skein left of the Annie Blatt brown that I was using. So it's like, okay, I can make one more batch of the long bullions. Michelle said, I like working with linen to stitch on. It is a joy to stitch on. But I realized, when I'm doing just the French knots to get the effect that I want for the hills, it's like, I can just use cheap, thin cotton because it's going to naturally start to pucker, and then I can just lean into those puckers to get the peaks and valleys that I really enjoy. All right, there is one more of those. You know, and I keep looking at some of the surface embroidery, the flat embroidery that people have been doing, and I get really, it's like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. And it just, no, I can only do so many things. I do not have enough hours in the day. 2, 3, 4, and everything takes longer than I think it will. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It says, make it a Scottish hill, and you can cover it with pinks, purples, yellows, and whatever else you like. I have got an inspiration picture of just a set of green flowing hills with this beautiful swath of colorful flowers across it. And I've been making, I don't know, some of the flowers will land in this piece, but not a lot. But I've been making these little tiny, if you make tiny, tiny drizzle stitches and tiny bullions, vertical bullions, or just if you can find a yarn that's got a good texture for knotting. And so I just kind of, I'm picturing just this big swath of, this big thing of green, and then the swath of flowers across it, I think would be really pretty. Future project, because after I finish this big one, I have a white one I want to finish. And a bunch of the other, you know, smaller projects that are so close to being done that need a lot of beading. When I don't get them in the half, I don't mind it being somewhat lopsided, but I don't need to be super lopsided. Kat, if you're still here, tell me what your favorite element is that you're putting in your mini terrariums. Yeah, it's still not quite in the center, but you know what? I'm going to be okay with that. Yeah, you know, there's a whole, if you just look for, I think moss art is what I was looking for on Pinterest. And oh my goodness, there were so many great inspirations in there. All right, so see, even though that's not cut yet, let's see how many I've got. Yeah, because these are going to definitely. Terry said, remember the In the Garden piece that you made with all the colorful knots? Yeah, that was like what started things, right? A lot of the, boy, and I stretched that over stretcher bars. I definitely got frustrated with that one. That was the one I ended up cutting away from the linen. And yeah, I've been thinking about starting just a really big doodle cloth that's just an explosion of colors. Kat said, my favorite right now is experimenting with the different grasses, thanks to your inspiration. I'm looking forward to investing in more beads and rocks as well. Oh, cool. I love the grasses too. Have you played with, oh shoot, can't remember the brand. I found it on Etsy. It's a wool thread, and it's, I don't know, it came in all these wonderful shades of green. So I can take like 2 or 3 of the shades of green and mix them together to make the grasses. And I really like that effect. Yes, it got it. I was really surprised when that one sold. I think that was when things really started to, I mean, not like I sell gobs, but it was like, whoa, somebody actually, you know, wants this piece. But every time I think, I was like, oh, I'll just do a doodle cloth today. And it's like, no, I can't do the doodle cloth today. I've got to finish this big thing. If I didn't have, no, it's good that I have the deadline because it is making me hit the finish line. You know, I don't want all the components for this thing sitting all over the studio for the next 6 months. And then I'm going to apply for open studios here in town. And if I get into that, I definitely need to have stock. And that's in October. I have to apply by the end of April. So I want to have this piece done so I can include it in my application. And it says, I almost forget to hit the thumbs up. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up. I appreciate that. All right. Kat, if you're looking for different rocks, there is a gal, shoot. Now I'm not going to remember her name. Oh, doggone it. On Etsy that sells the stones that are already drilled, which makes them a lot easier to attach. I guess there's a few people. Stone Button Studio is one, but the gal that I buy from in Arizona has a lot. Yeah, Rock On Ranch. Yes, that's it. And if you're looking for something like you want really small ones, you can, if you don't see anything in there, she's super, super helpful. Just let her know what you're looking for. I wanted a few really big ones, and she found those for me too. I have an idea of some smaller things that I want to create for Open Studios. I've got a bunch. I think I told you I've got 20 terrarium bowls waiting for me to fill them. So I want to get those done for Open Studios. And then I have another idea because I got some rocks from her that were about like this, and I want to maybe use them as a base. Yeah, Lasma, I think is her name, and she's just really, really sweet. And if you want more than what's in a listing, I think it usually costs me when I get a list, I get like 100 or maybe 200. It's like $50 with shipping, but she'll always throw in some extras. I love it when we can find good good people to work with. You've been studying my sources. Let me know if there's something you want to know where I found, because I'm happy to share. I will tell you that a lot of the variety of fibers is a lot of hours searching on Etsy and eBay. Trying to think if there's anything else that I really use. Hold on just a second, people. Got the tickle in the throat. Yeah, eBay, it's interesting. If you go on eBay, okay, number one, they have a much better search engine than Etsy does. And a lot of time I go look for buy it now rather than, I don't auction any of it. I look for buy it now. And then a lot of people will have offers, and you can make an offer, and I can usually get a couple bucks off of something for an offer. And that kind of goes towards the shipping. The Etsy does often have, people will do this free shipping. 6. Where are you located, Kat? Yeah, and I love it when we can find good people. Yes, AKA enablers. I also look for D-stash lots. Oh, you're in Texas. Okay. And I asked you that for a reason. I was trying to remember. Oh, California driftwood. If you're looking for little pieces of wood, they sell tiny, tiny pieces. Most of their stuff is free shipping. When I was looking for knotty wood, I asked him for like the gnarliest knots that he could, dig out for me. So that was another really good place. They're on Etsy. Now, if anybody's watching this and they're not commenting and they're saying, but Susan, you're telling Kat everything you know, and she's making the same kind of things. You know what? So what? Kat makes beautiful little miniature terrariums now, and well, she does other things too, but it's not hurting me to share stuff with Kat or anybody else that asks me questions. People were asking me questions about how to do certain stitches, and I try to help them when I can. Some people ask me for a whole lot of videos that I just don't have the time to make right now. But honestly, I think sharing our knowledge just makes everything better. Being a knowledge hoarder just hurts the world of creativity, in my opinion. Your mileage might vary, but to me, we need to share our knowledge, because one of these days I'm going to talk to Kat and say, hey, how did you do that thing you did? And she's going to be maybe more willing to share with me because I've shared with her. That's the way it works in the creative world. And I think in our group here, we have good people. Yeah, not the same, inspired by, exactly, because we do work completely differently. And that's what's fun, right? Barbara said, I went to school for a while in Arlington, Texas, back when gas was only about 65 cents a gallon. It is interesting, the small world. The trainer that I work with a couple times a week down here in town, I had been looking for photographers because I'm going to I wanted a studio shoot, and I had been looking at the local photographers here in town, and on the website, I recognized my trainer. So I asked her, what her experience was like. She says, oh, she's one of my best friends. You'll just absolutely love her. So of course I set up my studio photo date, which is coming up in a couple of weeks with her. And then I said, oh, but I have to go get a haircut before then. I'm going to have to call Jessica and get a haircut. And my trainer said, Jessica, you mean down at the Fringe Salon? I said, yes. So we have the same hairdresser and stuff. Just, well, I live in a small town too, but it's kind of funny. Kat says, absolutely, always willing to share creative process. Yeah, and I think that for me, okay, that's the best part about building a tribe of creatives. It doesn't matter, like, not everybody here makes the kind of stuff that Kat and I are right now obsessed with, but I could ask Sue and Barbara and probably some other people here, Carol, if she was still here, a quilting question, and we would have a knowledge base to pull from. Terry, we could ask painting questions. When Big Mama is feeling healthy, we could ask her journal questions. You build a tribe of people you feel good about hanging out with, and then you share your knowledge, and then then it just kind of ripples out into the world, and everybody gets more creative knowledge, which can only be a good thing, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now I know how to count at least to 21, right? Oh, and Kat, if you want to experiment with small amounts of fibers, Purple Paper Mountain is a shop on Etsy, and she sells 2 or 3 yard samples of stuff. And that's where I first found my first little bit of fuzzy stuff. She always sells any of that in green that you can find. And she's really, really sweet. If you go over there, tell her I sent you, because she is an awesome gal. Small business. It said, approaching life or art from a scarcity mentality. There isn't enough to go around, so I have to hoard and protect what I have. Only stunts growth. Absolutely. I so agree. And that's a problem that a lot of, I think, wannabe artists or creatives run into. They maybe they develop something that they think is, oh my God, it's so brand new. Nobody's ever done this before. Or somebody asks them a question. It's like, oh no, I can't tell you. I mean, I've had people, tell me, no, I can't tell you how I did that. And at first I thought, oh, I'm so sorry I, interrupted you. But now it's like, no, why can't you tell me? There was a gal, she was making French knots with wool roving, which looked really cool. They gave you kind of like this pillowy effect. And I'm like, okay, I have a huge collection of needles, but I don't have anything that I can get wool roving through. And I sent her a message on Instagram. I said, do you mind me asking, how in the world are you making these French knots with that? And she told me about it. She called it a knitting needle. The needle itself was plastic, was needle, but only the eye part was collapsible. And it was awesome because you can get the really thick stuff through. And of course, it depends on what material you're using, but and she was just so happy to share with me. And I thought it was simple. It was like $2 to buy the needle. And it's like, oh, how nice was that I asked? Because there's another gal that does something on Instagram that I would love to ask her a question, but I've heard her rake other people over the coals. It's like, this is my process and I am not sharing it. I'm like, I'm sorry, gal. I'm sorry. You make beautiful work, and I'm sorry that you feel threatened by anybody else asking you questions. Hey, Joanne. I hope you're doing okay today. My heart is in Kentucky. Fantastic Fibers open there today, or yesterday, I guess. And it said, this is why I love this hour of the week. You do rock, Susan, spreading the happy far and wide. Thank you. I try. I'm looking forward to being able to walk better. I got my first of 3 injections, second set of the gel injections. I had them 6 months ago, and they made such a huge difference in my knees. Yesterday, I couldn't move very well, but today I'm back to normal, so that's good. Looking forward to my workout. I am down, I think I'm only down like 5 pounds, but I'm down 2 sizes in my clothes. So that's kind of exciting. And the ortho guy told me yesterday, for every pound you lose, that takes 6 pounds of pressure off your joints. So it's no wonder I'm bouncing around now. All right, I got time to cut these guys apart, and this might be just enough for me. I'll take them into the studio after this and see. I was really worried that I didn't have enough of things that I felt went well together, or that I was going to make this deadline, but now I laid it all out on the island in the studio. I wish the island was a little bit wider, but I don't have the room. But I was thinking, they make like these fold out extensions you can like put over your table, like if you're having a Thanksgiving dinner and you need a wider table. I was going to see about getting something like that just for these situations. And we really need like a resource thing, huh, Kat? Well, Kat, let me ask you, have you found any great resources for anything? Anybody else have a great resource that they really love for anything that they use a lot of? And if Sandy was here, I know she would say that I was a great resource for her because I just sent her a whole bunch of boxes of stuff. It's nice when I decided I wasn't going to work with paper anymore, and Sandy loves to work with paper. It's like, awesome. I know right where this can go. And I have a friend here in town that loves to go thrifting, and she says, I know you're my fiber person. So when she comes to visit, I never know what she's going to pull out of her bag for me. It's really cool. And after this one, I want to experiment with the embellisher, because I think I can make some interesting background effects with, the embellisher, and then just add the other components. Not everything has to be a base of French knots, which is something I'm trying to wrap my brain around. And it said, even Stradivarius shared his process. I just shake my head at anyone who acts like their process needs to be a secret. Yeah, I agree. And this one gal, it's sad because you can figure out, what she's doing by watching it, but there was definitely a form she's using for something. And okay, so have you guys seen the thing? I don't have anything handy here, but the Paul, hello. Terry says John is my resource for things I don't even know that I need. Yeah, when he can pick things up at the transfer station because he sees them, that's great. You've seen the things where they take like you have to use your imagination, folks. Paul said, have not been here in a long time. Lots of things happening in my life. I'm going to belong to an art club from next week. I taught myself to do portraits in pencil. That's awesome. Hey, if you're still hanging around in the Facebook group, post one for us to see. So you know those, like you see people do a button and they, wrap the threads all around, or a button or a bead, and they wrap the threads all around it. And then sometimes they have like these domes. They might be using the limpet shells that have a hole in them. I found, do you know what a wax catcher is? They would go on candlesticks and they would catch the drips from the wax, and they were normally glass. On eBay, I found some that were plastic, so I didn't have to worry about the glass breaking. I haven't played with them yet, but I think they're domed, and they'll be perfect for making a larger one of those. Kat says, I still feel so early in my resource gathering. So far, I've focused on Hobby Lobby and Amazon, but I've come to the realization that the quality of the fiber really impacts the overall look. That came to me too, Kat. And as you know, my French knots themselves, or when I'm doing stitch, I tend to use wool yarn. Black Sheep Dye Works on Etsy, $25 a skein for beautiful wool yarn. And she's consistently, her colors are always, even though they're different dye lots, everything goes together. Cannot recommend her enough. Also, Lavender Sheep on Etsy for the wool yarn. Hers is more expensive, especially when she has the yak in it. It's more like $30 a skein. But if you're making small stuff like your terrariums, you have a little bit more wiggle room on that. But all of this is acrylics. And so you learn by, and the only way you figure it out is by playing around with them, but you learn what fabric or what fibers you don't need to have the expensive stuff off. So I figure I can afford to buy the merino wool yarn that I love, and even the stuff with the yak in it, because that's my absolute favorite. It's like smooth like butter. When I can, buy a skein of ice yarn to do this, and that's like $10. Let's see. What did Int say? Oh, Int said grats. I think it was just short for congratulations. Oh, that's Tanya. In the group, she's known as Tanya, so you might find it easier on that. Yeah, Black Sheep Dye Works. She's wonderful. Tell her I sent you. I want these people to know that we're sharing resources. I want them to know we think they're wonderful. There's somebody else on, shoot. Well, if you're looking for somebody else, Black Sheep Dye Works is the most reasonable on Etsy. She has a limited palette, but she's the most consistent. If you're looking for some more recommendations on yarns on Etsy, send me a message and I'll pull up my orders. Right now, my brain, Lavender Sheep and Black Sheep Dye Works are the two. That I'm going for. Oh, there's somebody else. Oh, Treasure Goddess. Check out Treasure Goddess on Etsy. Sometimes her dye lots, like if you really want something to be the same, buy it all at once, because sometimes they can vary greatly. But for the most part, and her yarn is beautiful. But again, that's getting to the more expensive stuff. And, if you look at, like when I'm searching on Etsy and I just put in, merino wool yarn, United States, and then if I'm looking for a particular color, and then I just sort by price to see if anybody new has come up. Sometimes I don't care if it's just a one-off and somebody's just cleaning out their stash. I've gotten some really interesting things that I can, make vines or something out of. Boy, I hope that I don't have to cut my live streams even shorter. I have a weird thing with my voice, and it just doesn't last anymore. Kat said, with my small pieces, I love the slight variations of color. Yeah, so I think it's Carolinique. It's like Caroline with Q-U-E, I think, on the end of it. And she gets a lot of D-Stash stuff. Oh, and Broke Mary's. She doesn't have the expensive wool, but for things, that's where I got this yarn. She's got a lot of interesting acrylics. Cut shorter. Sandy, cut shorter. You want me to cut these shorter? No. Oh, you mean the live streams? Yeah. But you can hear my voice, right? Yeah, I've been hydrating, but I have a weird thing in my throat, a speech thing. You know, if I wanted to go to speech therapy 3 days a week, yeah, I don't know. So I should have done another lozenge before I started, and I didn't. Plus, I've been having this weird thing for the last 6 months where I can't, I have trouble swallowing pills, little pills. And so then they scratch my throat, and then that adds to this. Yeah, so I will be having, after I finish this, I am going to go make some throat coat tea, because then I'll be able to have my chai later. Ugh. Spicy. I love spicy, spicy chai. Jack or Jim? Nah, no Jack. The tea will help a lot. Tanya says 2 times a week for 40 minutes instead of 1 hour, 1 time a week. I'm greedy. Yeah, cute. If I felt, sometimes there's stuff that just does not make it easy to do on screen, and then I feel bad. I mean, I do. I feel bad if I'm doing French knots every week, but I guess I shouldn't, because you guys tell me you come for the community. So Paul is going to be doing oil portraits. That's awesome. Yeah, Terry, we had fun while we did that. I know you've got a lot of adventures going on. Ooh, this one, I'm wondering, is it? Sometimes I worry that the stuff is going to pull out, but all right. I think this is a good batch. Look at this. I totally can see this. This is going to go around the top. And then, of course, there'll be other stuff mixed in, and the French knots and the grasses and all that good stuff. I actually had been debating about doing, like, twice a week, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, for like a half an hour, just to check in and show what was going on. But, and there's times where I could just sit in the studio and sit and talk. We'll see. And then I can bring my browns in. Potential. Yes, Paul, looking forward to seeing some of your portraits. And it says, raise your hand if you don't care what Susan's doing for the hour. Thank you. Sue said, looks like a line of treetops. I like that idea, although they will be like horizontal. That's hard to show on, because it'll be hanging on the wall. All right, people, I'm going to go make my tea, and then I'm going to go start stitching some stuff down. I am so happy you guys hung out with me today. It says we care, but we'd watch whatever. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you next week. Have a creative week of your own, and thanks for all the support you give me. I really do appreciate it. Bye-bye for now.